Listen, if you're running a PT practice and you're still using old school systems, you're leaving time and you're leaving money on the table. Empower EMR is here to change that. It's an all-in-one, automated and built to streamline your scheduling, billing, and everything else so you can focus on what you do best, helping patients. Don't overthink it. Go to empoweremr.com. That's empoweremr.com. Book a demo and stop letting outdated tech hold you back. All right, PTs, if you're serious about crushing the OCS exam or leveling up your clinical game, Current Concepts of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, 5th edition, is where it's at. This is your one-stop shop for the latest in ortho PT, with expert insights on every joint, real-world case scenarios, and evidence-backed techniques. Don't sleep on this. Go to orthopt.org right now and get a sneak peek and start prepping like a pro. That's orthopt.org. One more time, orthopt.org. Go there. Coming to you live from a construction site this morning. This is PT Breakfast Club. Dave Kittle jumping on there. Good morning, gentlemen. You caught me just as I'm pouring the milk in the coffee. How you guys doing?
Jimmy, good morning. Happy belated birthday.
I'm a little, I had made
it belated? It's belated? I thought today was the day. What was the day?
11/11. 11/11.
Oh.
So that was yesterday. Yeah.
Very
halfway
cool.
to 90. I was going to do one of those LinkedIn inspirational posts, like 45 lessons I learned in 45 years. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Sometimes I read them. But do you ever read past like number 3? I'm just kind of like, that's great. Don't pet the sweaty stuff and don't sweat the petty stuff. That's the good one that I learned from somebody.
What was the big celebration either last night or tonight? What's going on?
It was a Monday, but I mean, life hack, have your kid born on November 11th. It's Veterans Day, right? So it's always a good feel-good day. And in New York State anyway, I never went to school on my birthday because it's a federal holiday, but like Pennsylvania, I heard from some people, they were like, oh no, our kids go to school today. I was like, whoa, robbed. So I never went to school on my birthday, which is pretty awesome.
My kids actually like going to school on their birthday. Like in elementary school, they could pick the game in gym class and they get their name announced. Like it was a big thing.
We still did that the next day. So.
Gotcha.
All right. So the reason that you're going to hear sawing and hammering and just construction noises, I bought this house 2.5, 3 years ago. And the long-term, actually the short-term plan was like, okay, build a studio, build a proper office. But then you start looking around and you're like, well, I probably use my kitchen more than I'll use an office. Well, I'll probably use a pool or whatever. So you start doing the rest of the stuff. And like these projects are a pain in the butt. So I'm actually building a podcast studio and I'll share some pictures and stuff like that. And you'll see me like, now I won't have to be live from my kitchen table. But the idea was I was just going to have someone come in and do sheetrock and spackling. Cause like that's an art apparently. Like throwing sheetrock up isn't an art, but the spackling is. That's what all my friends tell me. So, you know, of course, what's the first thing you do? I Googled it. I called a couple people. Nobody called me back, right? The people with the good SEO are busy. They didn't call me back. So of course, then what do? And what does 87% of PTs say where they get their patients from? Word of mouth. So I text a buddy who's super handy, who I've been to his house, and his house is lights out. It's just an amazing house. And I'm like, who do you use? Who do you trust? And he's like, got it. Sent me one name and number. I didn't need to vet them, right? Because my buddy Sean was like, these are the guys. I'm like, got it. He came over, gave me a quote. And he gave me the quote just for the sheetrock and the spackle. But now here comes the magic part. And I want to give him credit, right? So they were like, so what are you doing down here? Right? We immediately turned, and this kid's like 21 years old, and this is his company, and he works with his family, right? Immediately turned the conversation from spackle and drywall and all that to what are you doing down here? Like, what's this going to be? And I was like, well, you know, I work from home and, you know, I studio podcast, and I also want to have an area to work out. And he's like, nice. He's like, all right, cool. Well, here's the price for that. What are you doing with the floors? And I'm like, well, I bought, look, because he walked past the 42 boxes of floors I bought at Lowe's 2 weeks ago. And he's like, oh, cool. So you're going to install that. Like everything's a question. I mean, this guy probably read Chris Voss's book, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's, I did it upstairs. It's not that hard. He's like, yeah. It's just time consuming. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I got a guy who does that if you wanted a price for that. I was like, you know what? Yeah, give me a price for it. And the price was good, right? It was fair. So I was like, I could spend 3 weekends doing this, or I could pay these guys to just complete this. I like that second option where these guys do it and I can be now recording episodes or working. So it went from that. And then there's a room that precedes the room that I'm working on. He's like, and it's all wood paneling from like 1978, like original from the house. What's the story with this room?
Great question.
well, obviously, like, it's a little old, but I'm going to get to it. And he's like, yeah. No, I totally get it. If you just banged them both out at once, like, would that make you? I was like, you know what? Give me a price for this room. So the whole downstairs, man, let's just
upsell, cross sell.
Yeah, and the funny part was like, and the prices were fair and they were like lower because in his mind, he's probably like, I already got guys on site. Like if we're going to be here 3 days, 4 days is just a little more. And I'm getting a second room he didn't have to like throw at me like 60% off. He didn't have to lower his prices. He kept his prices the same, but he's like, well, my costs are lower, so I can pass that on to you. So, I mean, just a good example of what you can offer someone. What's the point of them coming to you? Mine was get rid of the ugly basement and make it, it was unusable. It was creepy. It looked like the set of a movie Saw. And now I'm going to want to work out in there, right? Now I'm going to want to spend time in there. I'm going to be productive in there. So I don't know, man. I mean, to me, I was like, wow, well done. Even when someone's doing the thing, I was like, yeah, I do want this room to not look heinous. And you help me do that. I do want to, not just, make the pain in my knee go away. I do want to now train for a marathon. Can you help me do that? And if you can, why aren't you asking that question? Is it because we have the Peace Corps gene? I don't know.
So Dave, I want to hear your perspective because I'll share how we incorporate this from a third-party payer model. What do you guys do from a self-pay model?
In regards to like asking other questions like, oh, how about this and that, and trying to potentially add on.
Expanding services, providing more value, increasing like the deliverables to an individual that maybe didn't come in thinking they needed this, but then you realize that they do.
Yeah, so it's a similar approach. It's just asking questions, right? So it could be someone wants to start with like for one client right now that specifically, so he had a mitral valve replacement surgery. So he had open heart surgery, right? So it was in-home physical therapy for, checking his vital signs before, during, and after ambulation, all that. Then the ambulation went from inside to outside on the sidewalk, which Tony, you saw one of the videos. And then it was, getting him eventually walking in Central Park. And now my therapist is walking around the reservoir, which is like the north side of the Central Park, like the big kind of like lake area. And now it went from post-cardiac physical therapy to like balance and stability and longevity. But it was some of the questioning, which I think I need to get better with my therapist, like retraining them or just adding this into some training. But it just goes into questioning. Then, of course, a month out after his surgery, he was putting during one of his therapy sessions, putting on his living room, carpet. Yeah. So then, of course, it's like, when, like he was asking, when can I get back to golf? Okay, so we got to take it in steps. First the putter, then then it's maybe some chipping, some wedge shots, whatever. Then eventually, or the driving range, but the lighter, irons. I'm not even, seasoned in golf. Then eventually driving later and endurance. Do you have the endurance and the balance and the stability to get a whole round of golf? Maybe it's 3 holes. Maybe it's a half a round of golf. So Tony, it's really like just asking open-ended questions, kind of being like curious. And it's super important because you want to kind of dig down into what else someone really cares about. And it's not always like the first thing. It's not always just, balance or stability. So you guys do that. You said, Tony, you do that in your clinic. So like how else you ask people, what else is important to you? Like, was it gym memberships or is it services or modalities or what else do you ask them?
So it depends on the context of the situation. Yesterday, I had a patient, we were talking, he's a long-term patient. I think he's probably going on 6 or 7 months of therapy. And I was going through this process with him just yesterday. He originally was referred for left shoulder pain. We're working on the left shoulder. Of course, he's got gait abnormalities. He's got drop foot. He's got some back issues. He's got neck issues. It's never one thing, right? It's like there's always a collection of things. Now, to Jimmy's point, and there's got, I don't like the Peace Corps gene. There's got to be a better saying for this. But, you know, I grew up as a therapist being like, I'm treating the human, not the condition or the body part. So in my mind, I was like, if I'm a good therapist, I treat everything, I treat the whole person. But that I don't agree with that concept anymore today, especially if I'm going to remain in the third party payer system. If Medicare or Blue Cross or Humana is going to pay me for an evaluation for a condition, I'm going to do an evaluation for a condition. And so in a case like this, he comes in for the left shoulder. We address the left shoulder. I do believe there's going to be carryover benefit. Treating the shoulder is going to improve the neck. But if the neck doesn't improve, I'm going to finish the shoulder, discharge the shoulder, and evaluate the neck. And then I'm going to treat the neck, discharge the neck, and evaluate the gait. And I am going to do these as separate episodes of care. And now what happens is this individual gets, you know, continuity of care. He's been, like I said, with me for 6 or 7 months now. Another example of something like that, though, to Jimmy's situation would be you're treating the spouse, I'm treating the husband, and I'm like, hey, what's going on with your wife? How's she doing? You know, she looks like she's struggling to get around a little bit. Well, shoot, you're here. Why is your wife not doing therapy also? She's driving you to therapy, and multiple times, that would be like adding another room onto the contractor job. Multiple times we're like, hey, families that sweat together, stick together. Let's go get in here and get your butt moving. And so then we end up with couples. And I've shared pictures where at some point you look around my clinic, there'd be 3 or 4 husband and wife couples that are doing therapy together, you know, and I think this goes back to the root problem, not the Peace Corps gene, but I think, and I want to hear your guys' take. I posted about this. Fundamental philosophical belief, is it our job to show them what to do and then discharge them to go do it? Or is it our job to keep them in the ecosystem forever? Because everybody's always going to have something to improve, something to get better about. I've been on both sides of that fence. I've been the therapist who just wants to do this, this, this. I'll see you, you know, if you ever need me again. And I've been the therapist who's like, look, this is a journey. Let's get you better than you've ever been. Let's not just kick you out once you're good enough. What do you guys think?
So the question is our job to teach them what to do and kick them or keep them in the ecosystem? I think our job is explain what each looks like and then let them decide. I make suggestions, you make decisions, right? We can do this, but focus on selling the hole, not the drill. And I need to make sure I say this because I've used this analogy before and you can use WHOLE or HOLE. So keep in mind, a drill makes a hole, HOLE. Because I was doing this presentation with students and they're like, we don't understand, sell the drill, sell the whole drill. I'm like, no, hang on. So sell the outcome. So even the 2 situations you just explained there where Dave's a concierge and he's creating a relationship where he's like, I'm going to take you from not being able to walk across your carpeted floor to the 18th green. That is a relationship, right? But that's the model there. Dave understand who his customer is. The same thing with Tony, except you're breaking it up into just smaller chapters, right? So you're like, I'm going to focus on this until we come to the end of this. And when we come to the end of this, I'll say, hey, by the way, I know shoulder, but now neck, we can do that. I don't think either is better or worse, but you understand where the goalposts are and you kick to those. So sell the vacation, not the flight. American Airlines doesn't sell seats. If they did, they'd be stupid because like they're getting smaller and smaller. But what they do sell is, you know, nonstop to Miami Beach from New York. And when you run that ad in, you know, February or January, the dead of winter, people from New York get on planes. So at no point did this guy discuss what kind of tools he had. He didn't tell me about his drills or how many years experience he had, right? I bet you he would have told me if I asked. but we are very quick to sell the drills. We are drill sellers, but focus on, you're going to be able to use this room in 2 weeks, and this is going to be the thing that you wanted to do, and you can decorate it however you want. So more of that, more hole, less drill.
So first,
go ahead.
Sorry. The one thing I agree, Tony, like we would have, like, we're treating just one client. We've never met them before. And then it's like, then eventually like the spouse or the family member starts. Also, this calendar year, first time ever, we've now hit our 4th family member for one particular family. So it's the husband, wife, and then the 2 sons. I treated the husband like 6-something years ago. And then my other therapists have treated the wife last year and this year, and the 2 sons this year for kind of like similar orthopedic issues like that, Tony, that your son like recently hurt his thumb, like similar things to that. So it starts with like being, you know, either they love the service, they see the value so much, and they're just like, hey, like we want the son, daughter, spouse, whatever, you know, we want them to get started because they have this issue going on. Or you can, again, prompt and train your therapist to say things like, you know, just ask questions. Hey, I see your spouse has a limp. Like, what's going on there? Like, is that a new thing, an old thing, whatever? Just asking questions. And then the other thing that Jimmy mentioned that made me reflect on our clientele is we definitely do have sometimes some of those clients that are kind of like episodic, right? So they are kind of like you're saying, like kind of like Tony's approach, where it's like they're looking to just use whatever's under their out-of-network insurance benefits, whatever authorized visits, and then they're done. So it's an orthopedic issue typically for them. And then our geriatric neurological conditions, those folks will typically stay with us a really long time because they love the relationship, the rapport, all that, plus the value that they're getting. So we still get a little bit of both, but the ones that have the affinity to us just typically tend to be 65 plus and have a bunch of those things going on, and we eventually can attack and solve a bunch of their challenges over time.
Yeah, I think so much of it comes back to what's the business you want to build. You know, when we talk about like selling the vacation, selling the beach, not the flight, that's cool unless you're the pilot or the airline. Like at some point, I struggle with that idea because I'm going to be the one in the clinic pushing this person to do the things they don't want to do. So if I was a salesperson somewhere else selling a plan of care, absolutely, baby. I'm going to sell the vision. I'm going to sell, look, you're going to be walking on the beach in France. You're going to be drinking wine. You're going to be traveling with your family. You're going to be doing all this stuff. That's what I'm going to sell if I'm not the therapist. But if I'm the therapist, I'm going to be there with them. So if I sell this dream and then I'm in the trenches with them every day, making them do things they don't want to do, I think that's really hard. So I think you have to understand, you know, where are you? What do you, what? You don't agree? So you tell me then.
Well, so you're either, if you're the staff therapist yourself or me or Jimmy or your team members, like that's part of the job. Like they need to be coached up and trained on that. Like they need to be supported. They need to be coached on here's what can help them the best is if you can spur that, like if you can kind of get that out of them. I'm not sure why that wouldn't fit the treating physical therapist. Like Tony, why wouldn't you want to coach them and make sure that they're asking these questions, that they're kind of invested in and this is, again, it's not, you know, snake oil or anything. It's not like we're selling them something with like a crazy amount of side effects or something.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I understand the question, like reframe the question.
I'm just saying
or the situation.
I'm saying there's a difference between if I'm the treating therapist selling the plan of care versus I'm a front desk. I'm talking to Jerry Durham today. We're going to talk about this a little bit. So if I'm the front desk sitting behind the phone, I'm never going to treat that person. I will sell the vision. I will sell the dream. I will sell the expectation of like sitting on the beach, pain-free, and doing all of the things you love doing. Because I don't have anything to lose, and I want that patient to get to that. Like I'm genuinely doing it for the best of the patient. But if I'm the treating therapist, I'm the one that's going to be there taking that person through the exercises, making them do the things they don't want to do, you know, pushing them beyond the threshold, like appropriately dosing them with activity. It's just a different thing that I'm delivering. I'm not delivering the dream anymore in the therapy session. So I need to be able to genuinely sell the therapy session.
Oh, yes. So to me, it's a matter of time frame, right? It's a matter of scale, which is like, hey, do you want to run this marathon? Yeah. Picture yourself like crossing the finish line the next day, marathon Monday, wearing your medal, right? Are you bought in? Yes. Check. Stop selling that. If you sell past the sale, it's called buyer's remorse. Stop selling that. Like, we booked, done. Stop talking about that. Great. Now, do you understand what it's now going to take when we go backwards from 26 to mile 0? Yes. Then starting Monday, right? So then Tony sells, today we're going to do this, right? And whenever there's in my mind, whenever there's a resistance or like, I'm just dragging, hey man, picture that thing. Remember, as almost on cue, the saw starts. Remember why we're here, right? So yeah, you can't sell the marathon and the finish line every step of the way. I totally agree with that. That's not easy to do, right? Because the sucky part has to come leading up to that.
I firmly disagree. Okay. If you're the treating therapist, if you're, by the way, all the therapists out there, right? Like they want to make 100,000, more than 100,000, whatever. Here's how you do it. Here's how you excite and woo owners like me, or maybe even Tony eventually, once we can change his mind. If I'm treating Tony Maritato, if Tony is my patient and Tony wants to run the Ohio Marathon in, I don't know, in a month or two, I'm going to be treating him. And if I'm really trained up on, I want to continue to kind of dangle the carrot professionally, nicely for Tony. Tony doesn't want to do the exercises, the drills, the strength training, whatever it is, but he just wants to run the marathon. I can, during the visits, I can say, Tony, hey, I know this is not optimal. Hey, I know you're an obsessed runner who doesn't like to strength train. We're doing this thing because, like Jimmy said, at mile 14, 15, whatever, this is when you're going to start to fatigue or whatever. This sideline bridge, whatever, drill, exercise, single leg stance, throwing the ball off the wall. I know we're doing this thing that kind of looks silly and it looks like a silly TikTok or Instagram video. I know you said you kind of feel embarrassed, whatever, but put that to the side for a second. We're doing this drill because at mile 15 or 16 or 20 or 21 or whatever, that's when you're going to have more rubbing on your knee or more fatigue or weakness or whatever, insert whatever. But we're doing this thing because this will help you complete the marathon. You said your family's going to be there at the finish line. You said it's really important to get across the finish line, to get a picture at the finish line, get your medal, all of that. I know these things, they might not be optimal. We need to keep the vision on the thing that you really want to do. You said that's really important to you. You want to finish the race, and here's how we're going to do it. So anytime my patient or client, in this case, Tony, gets frustrated, flustered, shows up late to a visit, says he doesn't want to do something, says, hey, I'd rather you just like rub my butt and I don't want to do the drills or whatever. Hey, Tony, I totally understand where you're coming from. I know this is challenging, but I need to redirect you to your main goal. And this is your main goal, is finishing this race. So guys, why can't a physical therapist do any of this in the visit?
No, I'm not saying you can't. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not saying they can't, but I would say now, listening to you, like hearing your perspective, this is the 1%. This is the top of the top. And I agree, like this is the person that should be making hundreds, of thousands a year. It's not your typical staff therapist. It's not the therapist that,
because they're not trained. They're not trained usually.
I don't think you can train that therapist, the typical therapist, to do what you described. It's not in their nature. It's not what they want to do. They would rather give up the 20 or 30 extra thousand a year and just complain about not having it than do what you're expecting them to do. But you disagree. You think you can train them.
I mean, this could be part of like the hiring process.
I think you can turn it. You can train it if they want to do it. Some people want to be the pilot. I just want to show up at 7 a.m., fly the plane, right? And then I want to be done. And that's okay.
This is part of flying the plane. If you want to, maybe it's the top 1%. I don't know.
It is.
But like this is, okay. So the guy, going back to the beginning, the guy that came to Jimmy's basement and was like, so, hey, what are you doing down here? Oh, well, like, you want to redo it, but you're not gonna just redo it and then never be here. So like, what are you? Oh, you're gonna be doing, maybe you're gonna do workouts on this side, and then you're a podcast studio over here. So, oh, that's interesting. So why is this important to you? Like, you want to have your own space and you want to invest, money and all that because you want to have a place for your health and wellness. Now, I know they're not going to go that deep, right? But I'm curious now with that guy, Jimmy, who you got in your basement.
Stop saying I have a guy in my basement. That's freaking me out.
He can leave whenever he wants. He's not chained. I'm curious if maybe you ask him if you want next time. Like, I'm curious, like, was he trained, or is he the owner and he wants to kind of dig into his customers and his clients? Because not everyone, Tony, you're right. Not every therapist is going to do this, but
agreed.
I think a lot of therapists are coachable, and I don't want to say trained and trainable, but they're definitely coachable and moldable to do this. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I don't think he was trained. That's my read anyway. I mean, because I asked him how long you've been doing this. He's like 7 or 8 years. Learned from my dad, like this family business. Unless they did do that, but like he literally was at, and this does not have to be a sell, right? I think in the comments, Scott had said, I prefer helping to buy versus trying to sell. Good, don't sell. I've used this analogy before. My dad was a New York City firefighter. You think they had to sell, stop, drop, and roll, or did they just explain, hey, if this happens, you do that, right? So the guy asked me he's got his saw. It's very loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's
very loud.
Sorry, I keep muting, but this is the song of my people for the last 3 days. Keep in mind, he didn't sell how loud it was going to be, but I'm dealing with that because I'm like, when he's gone, this is going to be great. But the point I was trying to make was the questions were like, hey, so what are we doing over here? Like, you just stop there, or do you want me to do something like this? How about those pipes that are exposed? Do you want to leave those, or want us to box those in? I was like, you know what? Those would look pretty dope boxed in, so I don't have to see those anymore. So you don't have to be a salesperson to ask these questions. What I would say is here's the one thing, maybe to tie back what Tony was just saying. Something that is very difficult or maybe impossible to teach or to instill is curiosity, right? I think that's the difference between me and a lot of different people. I do not think I'm smarter or faster or whatever than most people. I think I'm devastatingly curious, and I think that leads me to places. Some of those places involve me and a guy in my basement, apparently. Other places are like where good things happen, right? Where like situations happen. I think if you're honestly curious, you can get to the bottom of things or get to the bottom of things faster. Maybe you never get there if you're not curious, but I don't think you can teach curiosity. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you can, maybe you can't.
I've never been able to, and this is a conversation I have with my kids all the time. My kids are 16, 13, and 12. They are genuinely curious kids. They're just born that way. Like, I wish I could take credit, but I can't.
I don't know, man. There's got to be some nurture into that. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? Like, you're around
he doesn't even see that, Jimmy. Come on, man.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Bro.
Exactly.
But like, looking at the guy in Jimmy's basement, he, Dave, all of us, like, we just, this is stuff that comes up naturally. And I think this is what makes a great clinician. Like, the difference between good and great. I think a good therapist learns all the stuff in school. They understand the research. They know what to do. A great therapist takes it to that next level. And I would love to hear your guys' thought on my other post where I said, how much psychology or clinical theater, and I use that very specifically, are you comfortable with bringing into your patient care experience? Because we know, like, absolutely, we know the more impactful the experience, the better the patient outcome. And so if there is something that I can do, and there were some great comments below the post to improve the chances of my patient getting the clinical outcome that they desire, and it's not harmful, it's not lying, it's not taking advantage, but it's genuinely designed to improve the outcome. Jimmy.
I love examples of this. It's like, you've been to Chili's. Like, do you think they just don't have plates, or do you think they bring out the skillet that's sizzling and put it in front of you because they ran out of plates? Of course there's that. Here's a good one. You guys know the Orkin Man? Are you guys familiar with the Orkin Man?
Yeah.
Do you know why the Orkin Man wears a helmet when he knocks on your door with a clipboard?
No.
they said it's because they want to make sure that you have this feeling, this theater, that what they do is difficult. They're going to be under houses. They're going to go places that are a little bit dangerous. I have to wear a helmet to do this. You probably can't do this on your own. Therefore, you need me, right? So there's reasons people wear uniforms. There's a reason like the FedEx guy wears a uniform. There's a reason a police officer wears a uniform. There's a reason a PT wears a uniform, which happens to be a polo shirt with a logo on the breast, right? That's our unofficial official uniform. So keep in mind, when you say like clinical theater, I know like our profession goes like nothing should be theater. Everything should be completely sterile. I push back and I go, yeah, except we're not in a lab. We deal with people, and people are motivated by things. And sometimes things have to have a little bit of dressing to them. Went out to dinner last night. Why do you pay more for this one place versus paying less at another? You pay for the ambiance. And even when you know that, you're still like, yeah, this steak tastes better when it's, not served out of a drive-through.
Dave's wearing his uniform for his ideal clientele, as am I. Go ahead, Dave.
That's right. A slim fit, button-up polo shirt with the collar, just like they saw when they used to be executives and investors in the office.
Yeah, but it goes right back to your post. You're the big post of the summer, right? When you were like, when you're flashing the guns, right? It's similar. It's not the same, right? So there needs to be some theater. Does it have to be huge biceps? No, it doesn't. It's got to be something though. Like people don't buy. I'm sorry, they don't buy your degree. They don't. They buy the thing. Like, do I want to hang out with this person? Right? Did I ever tell you the advice? Guys know Eric Mera. Eric Mera was one of the first PT podcasters that I knew of. Big in the sports section, super smart guy. I said, hey man, and it was sports PT. I said, Eric, what are the 3 keys of being a great sports physical therapist? He said, first 3 things, the 3 A's. All right. Available for a sports PT, but same for concierge PT, safe for brick and mortar. Available. Are you open or not? Because if you're not, I'm out. If you're a sports PT, I need you on site. If you're Michael Jordan's PT, 5 in the morning, or Kobe's PT, 5 in the morning, twice a day. So available. The second is affable, right? Like, do I want to hang with this person? If I don't want to spend any time. I'll find someone else, right? There's other smart people. So available, affable. And the third one blew my mind from Eric. He said adequate. I was like, wait a minute. Here's a dude who's got more. He's got letters after his name. He's got accolades. He's been a sports PT, yada, yada. And he just told me adequate. He's like, got to do the basics. Got to do them over and over and over again. I know there's big fancy stuff. And Eric hosted PT Inquest, which was a Journal Club podcast. So he's always looking for like, what is it? What is it? What is it? But he was always looking for the reasons, the basic stuff. So available, affable, adequate.
But I don't know. Adequate just sounds like just good enough, and the people who are just good enough are the ones that don't do the fundamentals.
Well,
so
you wouldn't sell adequate, but I think, number one, it's got to be the 3 A's. So obviously it couldn't be 2 A's, two A's and an S, like two A's and an S. Smart. But it's playing on this idea, like you need to be good enough. Like don't overpower that third A by dismissing the first 2. Available and affable are terribly important. And then I need you to be smart. You got to be smart enough. Don't hurt someone and make them get better. But don't overthink that third one. And by missing the first 2, available and adequate.
So Tony sent me something over Instagram DM. Tony, do you want to describe that wacky woo-woo? I mean, probably
lovely some woo-woo.
Like some Reiki. You know Reiki, by the way? I mean, that is okay. If there's like a spectrum or like a dial of like clinical theater, right? We're calling this clinical theater. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. There's an effect. Even placebo is an effect. We agree with that. And there's some people want some type of hands-on something, and the Tonys of the world don't. The Tonys of the world want a massage inside of a pool. But he doesn't want manual therapy on dry land. Blows my mind. But anyway, he sent me something over. Do you remember that, Tony?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Tony recently sent me something on Instagram DM, and it was like, I don't even know what type of fake healer with, some smoke, literally some smoke and some Reiki and some finger dancing and all that. And I want to believe that we're like completely away from that. Because I know, like, there's got to be a spectrum, right? There's got to be a spectrum of clinical theater, and we're on one end, and then Reiki has got to be on the other end. Do you guys agree with that? Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, only slightly. It's not a spectrum; it's a circle. And I think Reiki is like at 11:59, and really great evidence-based treatment with some theater to it, almost like what Scott's saying here. I've noticed if patients take my clinical advice, he thinks they take their clinical advice more seriously when he's wearing scrubs versus a polo, right? I think 11:59 is Reiki, and then like really great care in scrubs is 12:01. It's not a spectrum. It's got to be a circle, right? And the line is, are you selling a thing that actually we have some evidence, right?
And there are no double-blinded placebo-controlled studies that I've ever seen for Reiki. Have you seen them?
No, but I was just healing you. Did you not feel that?
Real quick. I have to mention this. During COVID, during 2020,
I guess I shouldn't mock it.
Oh, I'm absolutely mocking it. we had a client. I had a patient client that I was visiting. This guy had buku money. He invested a ton of money with us. He had some caregiving team. Dude, I cannot make this up. They were doing Reiki over Zoom.
Yeah, dude.
Reiki over Zoom. So right now, if I were them, it's me saying, all right, Tony, do you feel this? Do you feel your shoulder getting better? Do you feel your low back loosening up because of my hand energy through this video? I mean, come on, the silliest thing I have maybe ever come across.
Well, I'm starting a new therapy. It's actually called Reiki, but it's spelled differently. So it's actually where I use a rake and I rake across your back and legs, promoting blood flow and healing. So it's Reiki. It's not energy healing. It's hands-on Reiki. In case you wanted to,
that's actually spurring some type of trauma for some micro healing and
All right, so one of my favorite TED Talks that came out years ago. And I always go back and find it. It takes a little bit of work to find it. It was a woman who was talking about research that was published about exercise and the placebo effect of exercise. And I don't know if you guys remember it. Give me a nod if you do. But basically, there was a study done where they took individuals who work in the hotel system. They clean rooms. They broke them up into 3 groups. One was the control group. One was an education-only group where they said, look, based on Surgeon General guidelines, the work that you're doing cleaning hotel rooms actually meets or exceeds the criteria for exercise. And if you were doing this exercise, you would experience these benefits, lower blood pressure, weight loss, all stuff. And then a third group. And what they found was the education-only group, once they told them what they were doing should have health benefits, actually had measurable health benefits. They actually lost weight. They actually had better blood markers, lower blood sugar, lower blood pressure. And so, this goes back to, like, I remember being that cocky strength and conditioning coach who was like, what the hell are we doing with the TheraBands? We're not doing strengthening. Why are you saying we're strengthening? Yellow TheraBand's not going to strengthen. But we would see benefit in the clinic, and so whether that is all placebo, whether we're doing things that we don't fully understand. Yeah, I sent Dave like this person who is non-touch, that is such a powerful clinical theater experience for the right person. Even if that person knows that it's not technically, quote, real. I go to a scary movie, I get scared. I know it's fake. I know it's not real. But then that night when I'm leaving my basement, going up the stairs, I don't turn the light off until I get to the top step, because I can imagine the feeling of something grabbing my ankle, and I'm 49 years old. These things have got to be accounted for. And it drives me crazy when clinicians say, well, what's the research behind it? There's probably more research behind non-clinical stuff affecting and influencing a person's behavior than actual research against clinical stuff that has a physiologic effect.
Yeah. I'll go into when this debate comes up, and I'll just let people know I'm completely guilty of bringing this debate up because I think it's very interesting of what things need to be added to PT school. And like the number one thing is, and we've discussed this before, is business education. Cool. Okay, great. I think a little more is warranted. I mean, we had to take one psychology course, and we're in clinic with people all day. Are you kidding me? And you don't think that plays a major part in what we do as physical therapists? I know, like, there's that tricky naming thing. The physical part is typically on the patient, right? I can't do any squats for you. I can guide you to those. But psychology being a major component of what we do, I don't think we need to be, trained psychotherapists. I think that is a completely different profession, but that is a major, major component of what goes on in this profession, in my opinion.
So let's bring some practical application to anybody watching right now. Dave, think about some of the things that you might incorporate into your business. I'll tell you, for me, and I've shared this story before, I remember opening my physical therapy clinic in 2001. It was a personal training studio turned into physical therapy. People would walk in the door. I had a functional trainer, just basically 2 arms, cable system, and some rubberized dumbbells and physio balls. 800 square feet, that's all I had. People would walk in the front door, they'd look around and they'd walk out. And finally I'd grab them and be like, why are you leaving? And they would say, well, you can't help me. You don't have any equipment. So I would intentionally go out to Curves, the women's fitness franchise. I would buy their circuits when they went out of business just to put equipment in my clinic to enhance the clinical theater and let people believe, hey, this guy's got all this equipment. And this is a story that's coming back in today's world for me. You guys see the treadmill, you see the Shockwave, you see the stuff that I'm investing in today because I'm taking my business to a different level. But this is one practical approach, like the way you dress, the way you smell, the equipment you use, the things that you bring in, it will make your clinical care more effective. I have zero doubt it will make your outcomes better. It'll improve the efficacy. What are some things you're doing, Dave or Jimmy, other people that are doing it, that improve the experience, like a fancy restaurant with heavy silverware, white tablecloths, and high quality chairs? Like, what are you guys doing?
I'd be shot if I didn't bring up what I'm doing with Vestibular First. And I went into working with Helena and Patrick at Vestibular First, knowing the bare minimum of vestibular care. And then once Helena was explaining it to me, like, hey, listen, to see abnormal eye movements, you need to put people's eyes in the dark. We know that. That's science. You want your evidence? Boom, it's written down. We didn't make that up. Except you and I cannot see in the dark. So when their eyes are in the dark, the only way to see it is to have infrared goggles, be able to look at it. And then we went beyond this. Of course, I asked some probing questions to Helena. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, where's the benefit? And she said, not when just Helena knows where the abnormal eye movements are. Helena says, when I can show it to the patient, you can actually almost see their shoulders drop, like, oh, it is a thing. Okay, that shouldn't. God, this is normal. This is what I'm seeing in you. We know what this is. Now we're going to treat it appropriately. We're not guessing. We're not in the dark anymore. She said also when you show it to someone's spouse, that see, I'm not making this up, right? Can you use this when you take a short video with these goggles and send them to a referring physician? Hey, listen, I have this tool. I'm not selling the tool. I'm just letting you know I'm the right person for these types of patients. Let me show you instead of tell you. So I got news for you. As much as you think you're in tell business, you're in a little bit of show business. You'd never tell someone how to do an exercise and say, good luck. You'd show them, right? You want to show me what this outcome is. Here's why I'm using this laser. Here's why I'm using these goggles. It is about show in a good way, right? That spectrum of, I don't think we're doing Reiki or look out for my, I'm selling the Reiki rakes for just $245, but they're specially ergonomic handled.
So the one thing we'll do in New York City for home visits is I will, once we get a prospective patient, or if it's again, the family member of a previous patient, and I'm telling my therapist, like, all right, here, it's this type of a condition. This person's got this issue. They live at this building or this address or whatever. Either I've been to the building before, or if I've treated the patient like a year or two ago, but now I'm like, hey, I'm not treating anymore. I'm sending my therapist to you. I coach my therapist and I say, hey, These apartments are going to blow your mind. These are floor to ceiling windows, 30th floor, 40th floor, $10 million apartment, $20 million apartment. They're going to be, it's going to actually blow you away. You're not going to believe that people live like this in New York City. I need you to go in there and act like it's no big deal. Act like you've been there before, because that gives the patient or client reassurance that we are so used to treating and helping other clients like them. You don't want to walk in there and be like, oh my gosh, this place is huge, give me a tour. Oh my God, like blown away, because in terms of status, it's going to lower your status in the dynamic. We need to have higher status to be like, hey, here's why we're doing this therapy. Here's why we're going to do this thing. I'm kind of running this visit. You're the patient or client. These ideal patients and clients that we have are used to running everything. They run their companies, they run their lives, they do everything. They're always in control. My therapist, I need to coach them. Hey, when you go in there, you are the prize. You are the prize. Our service, all that, the offering. Do not go in there and act like this is the Taj Mahal, even though I know in your head, the therapist contacts me afterwards and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I saw this, that. I'm looking at this over Central Park. I can't believe it. I'm like, yeah, but you have to act like it's no big deal. So that maybe is part of the non-clinical clinical theater, like in terms of the theater of like the whole dynamic. That's just one thing that popped off the top of my head.
Yeah. And I'll say, even for us, like, so right now, we're rolling out the shockwave therapy. We're testing the device. I'm figuring out what it feels like. We're using it on ourselves. But in that process, I'm also working through, okay, what is the experience going to be? Should I have some sort of white coat or gown? Should I wear gloves? Should the gloves be colored? Should I put on glasses because there's a light that's associated with the shockwave? Should I put on like earmuffs or headphones or whatever? Or should I put it on the patient? All of these things are going to improve the quality of the experience. They should be carefully curated. To Jimmy's point, when you walk into a restaurant, like how you're greeted, how people say hello. When we were on a more simple level, when I've said this before, my receptionist, I positioned the desk so that when somebody comes in, it's impossible for my receptionist to be facing the wrong way. And we set up the clinical records and the documentation in such a way that it improves and enhances the clinical experience. I love that stuff so much. I love building the theater around the treatment that's received, that I could spend all of my time. And I find fulfillment in doing that. And I think that's one of the things that we've always been able to relatively stay small, stay relatively inefficient, but profitable, because we could figure out how to improve value, how to improve outcomes, how to do all these things without ever worrying about like, yeah, my therapists are good enough. I am good enough, to Jimmy's point. I am not an amazing clinician. I can't cite the research. I can't use the clinical terms at this point. I've forgotten half of them. But I'm good enough not to hurt somebody. What makes me great is the experience that I can package around the physical therapy we're delivering.
You don't hire the best, pretty much anything. You hire the best one you know. And then once you have I call it a jump ball. Like once you have a phone call with me, like right now, I'm sort of in the negotiation phase with an organization to produce a series of podcasts for them, right? And they came to me and they were like, help. They came to me with like a pile of words. Well, we want a thing. And I'm like, hang on, help me understand. What does it look like? Okay. So we got a structure. And then I said, here's what I'll do. Here's the price for that. And I'm fully prepared if they come back to me and say, we want to pay less. I will absolutely say there are other people you can hire to do this. I'm going to push back because that is my rate, right? My guess is most people hire the person they know. If you're still talking, this was great advice. If we're still talking, we're still negotiating. Even if we're not saying $50 less, $50 more, $50 less, that's not negotiating. If you're still talking, if you haven't walked out the door, you're still negotiating. Your butt is still there, right? Understand that people want the solution. And if you're in front of them, you still have a chance there, right? So explain the outcome.
So Tony, with Shockwave, so if you treat 100 patients, and if you wear a white coat for the first 50, and then you don't wear a white coat for the second 50 patients. Okay, arguably you're probably going to get a little bit like better reports and better effectiveness and better outcomes or whatever, potentially just because of the white coat, because the white coat signifies competence, authority, all that type of stuff, right? But for the 50 patients that you treat without the white coat, it might be less than the white coat group, but they're still going to get improvements. This shockwave has these supersonic sound waves, and they're going to have some, impedance or whatever the words are in terms of like the actual sound waves going into the tissue, the joint, whatever, and improving blood flow and improving, decreasing pain, whatever it might be, those types of effects from the actual shockwave. So it's like, we're talking about clinical theater, and clinical theater could shift some of the results, but not all the results.
Agreed, but I would also take it a step further, and I would think I could probably do things that produce negative outcomes because of the words that I say, because of the environment that I put them in, because of the way I react to what's happening. The point of all of this really is just we need to be mindful. And every time we say, well, there's no research behind it, we're being very particular about what research we're talking about. Because let's talk about the research around placebo. Let's talk about the research around patient care experience. Let's talk about buyer psychology, pricing. Again, back to, we've said it 100 times. If I want to improve my outcomes clinically, charge more money, make it painfully expensive. If the person is willing to pay a painful price, they have already sold their own selves into believing that what this is so valuable. They're willing to pay more money than they want to pay. They are going to have a better clinical outcome than the person who doesn't want to pay a $15 copay. There's so many other opportunities to quote cite research to improve patient outcome that has nothing to do with true, clinical care, the actual intervention itself.
All right, we're going to talk about batting cages, but I don't know if we have enough time for that, do we? Or do we want to rip through this real quick? I don't think we need an hour on this. This was a good example.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this?
Let's hit it real quick.
All right, DBAT, what is this?
Dave,
so I just hit in one of these cages last week. We drove 2 hours from Blue Ridge, Georgia to, I forget, somewhere in Tennessee. And I don't know how they make money. I mean, we spent $25. We were there for like an hour and a half. It was $25 to get 15 rounds of either hardball, baseball, or softball batting cages. Each round has like about 15 pitches. So it was $25. And I do need to make sure my wife, paid for it because of my birthday. So they said something like, and maybe it was an intro offer. I don't know. Cause I'm seeing 48 and 78 here. They did say something about a membership. So now I need to make sure that she's not signed up for like $25 next month. And like, we're not even in Tennessee. So if it's a membership and you're hooked in, then it makes sense. Is $25 even on this, this rate sheet?
So this is the rate sheet for mine here next to me. I took my kids up there, before the fall ball season. It's awesome. I mean, it's a warehouse, so they're paying very low per square foot. But like Dave said, hardball, softball, they're using real balls. They have video in one of the batting cages where, like, when you hit the ball, you can see it on the video and it shows you where it's gone. It's very similar to Topgolf, but it's for baseball, and they do private lessons. They have the memberships. They have punch cards that you can use. I think it's awesome. And we see this in the therapy world. There's a franchise called We Rock the Spectrum. And it's a really interesting story behind it. So it was a woman. Her son, I believe, was autistic. She was looking for additional services more than what her insurance was covering. There was equipment that she wanted access to. Did I get lost? I'm not on the screen. There we go.
Sorry, I hit something. My bad.
No, there was equipment she wanted access to, and she couldn't afford paying therapy rates to get, the trapeze and the trampoline and stuff. So she started We Rock the Spectrum. And it's basically the same thing. Like, I think it's $15 or $20 access pass. You go in, you can use like 10 or 11 pieces of equipment that the OTs and PTs were using with their kids. Originally, she bought them for the house, and then she put them in a retail center, and then she opened access to people. And it's a growing franchise. It's not therapy, but it gives you access to the therapy equipment. You know, DBAT, it's not baseball, but it gives you access to the equipment to improve your ability to play baseball. I think any of us could do this, and it's a business model that's been proven to be successful so far. So yeah, I just think it's awesome. Real quick, we see it in the form of recovery rooms. So a recovery room, like here, I've got the leg compression devices. I've got, now I've got Shockwave. I've got the RSD treadmill. I've got eStim. I've got all of these things that insurance doesn't pay for, but patients or clients want access to. And so for a monthly membership or a per use case, they can buy access to the recovery room. They can get in there and play with all the toys. I turn a profit on the backside, but then I also have the opportunity to upsell, cross-sell into other services that are higher profit margin, that are likely more effective. I just think it's a great opportunity to monetize what we own in different ways. The question is, how does a mobile therapist do it?
That is the challenge of mobile. Yeah.
All right, we've got 5 minutes left, and I don't know if anybody wants to hear the saw going off in the background of my house anymore, but eventually I'll be able to come to you live from the new studio. You want to do parting shots now?
Yeah, let's do it. So I'll start. Parting shot. Happy birthday to the most amazing podcaster in the profession. Jimmy, outstanding. Happy birthday, buddy.
That's it. I mean, that is good enough, man. The GOAT of podcasting for physical therapy. Happy birthday.
Hey, best birthday present. Go to Jimmy's podcast. Go to PT Pintcast on YouTube, on Apple, iTunes. Subscribe. Do all the things you have to do. Like, let's give him a big boost for his birthday.
That would be nice. Thank you. I would say parting shot would be to tie this thing in a knot. I spent more with the guy in my basement than I thought I was going to, and I feel happier about it. Okay? Wrap your head around that. He didn't rob me. He didn't stick me up. I'm spending more, but whatever I spent more, I feel like I got so much more. You're telling me, I feel like the scene from Swingers where Vince Vaughn is explaining to John Favreau, like, with these claws, the bear, you can't kill the bunny with the bear. I'm like, with your PT degree, with what you know, you can't ask for this, but deliver this. You know you can. You know you can. Now go do that. Gentlemen, appreciate the birthday love, and we'll see you guys back here live on Thursday.
The PT Pintcast is a product of PT Pintcast LLC. It is hosted and produced by PT Pintcast CEO Jim McKay and CBO Sky Donovan from Marymount University. We talk PT, drink beer, and record it. This has been another pour from the PT Pintcast. The PT Pintcast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. More on the show at ptpintcast.com.
Physical therapists, if you're not up on blood flow restriction training, you're missing out. BFR, it's the future of rehab. Owens Recovery Science has the certification for learning BFR from the ground up. You'll get hands-on with the best tech, expert insights, and tools to deliver real results for your patients. Stop waiting. Check out owensrecoveryscience.com. That is owensrecoveryscience.com, and get certified in BFR today. Physical therapists, if you're ready to stop playing small and actually master your specialty, Brooks Institute of Higher Learning is where it's at. Imagine one-on-one mentoring, hands-on labs, top-tier facility, all while earning a full salary and benefits at Brooks Rehabilitation. We're talking 8 cutting-edge residencies, specialized fellowships, and a 93% board pass rate for graduates. Get trained by the best with the best. Check out brooksihl.org. That's brooksihl.org, and start leveling up your career today.